guys. So this is our second episode, second time we're talking, and for these conversations, we will focus a lot about uh, education. Because that's where our expertise is. So yeah, this is episode number two.
Yeah, before we start with our conversation, I would like to clarify something that I mentioned in the last episode. Yeah, actually, I was prompted by my first critic, your mom.
Ah,
So it's not so happy of the statement of saying that some graduates are of no use to this in this country. So I told her that if you take that statement in context, you'll not feel that way. I explained that what I mean really is that because these graduates are so good in their profession, be it in the engineering field or accountancy or any other uh, field, they are working below their capacity. If we
below
had,
their potential.
yeah, below the potential, had we had those industry, they could have contributed more to our country, to the economy. And of course, as a consequence, they would earn more. Like it's not a surprise why in the States, experts, professionals like them earns a lot because they have that industry. They have the economy that can uh, provide the opportunity for them to function at their level.
Mm.
So that's what I mean. So, and another thing that I want to mention is that probably I mentioned lots about Diliman at that time. In fact,
Oh,
when I
UP
mentioned
Diliman.
Diliman, you right away got the point that I was referring to UP. Actually, Diliman is just a district in Quezon City.
Right.
It's not UP itself. I mentioned that because not as a school, I was not meaning UP as a school, but as a representative of certain level of education. Well, if I mention some universities, we have great universities here in the city, in Iloilo. But, well, if I mention their names, probably people won't recognize them. So when I say UP, Ateneo, right away, they got what I mean.
Okay.
That's, I think, I want to clarify. It's not that I want to advertise or blow UP Diliman out of proportion.
Right.
It's
Right.
just that, like for example, in the states, I mentioned to you, if you have the opportunity when you're going to Peking University, if you have opportunity to, let's say, there's a exchange program, would go to the states, you can start. You choose Harvard. I'm not saying that UCLA, Oxford in the state in the UK, even National University of Singapore. I'm not saying that they are inferior to Harvard, but once you say Harvard, everyone gets the point. So I
Um,
think that's the point I just want to add.
yeah, yeah. Because in the previous episode, you mentioned these universities, and also earlier you mentioned the potential. And talking about speaking of potential, that's really what I want to talk about today in this current conversation. When we talk of potential, we also talk about potential of young children, and I think the main that's what I want to get into today. Let's focus on reading first, because that's one of uh,
The fundamental skills that children
right,
should have.
right. So you believe that's one of the fundamental skills, but do you think that there's a certain age or a certain level where kids should be taught seriously how to read? Let's start with the reading to begin this conversation first.
Yeah, I'm happy that you mentioned reading because that's really one of the controversial issue in the almost all educational system in the world. Some would say that reading, you cannot start reading as in the kinder, preschool. Like in Japan, they would always take Japan as an example. Like in the early age, they would focus on values education, and reading would come later. So that's one. In a country, there are some schools are hesitant to let children read as early as probably even 6 years old. They would wait until much later that they will introduce reading as a skill, as a subject. Um, I would say that our educational system are much influenced by the so-called romanticism, um, like developmentalism, these schools of thought. Of course, these schools of thought have their merits, no? In the long history of educational philosophy, they contributed a lot, like Jazay, Pestalozzi, Froebel, all those great minds. So no one can discount their contribution. But the problem is that we sometimes overstretch their philosophy. Like, for example, the Romanticism would say that we should recognize the fact that children grow by stage. No one would deny that.
Right.
For example, like as simple as crawling, a child, an infant would start crawling. Then, of course, he will stand up. After that, he would walk and start to run. You could never see a child who would start running, then going to walking, stand up, and crawling. Never, because that's the natural, um, that's the nature of our human beings. And for example, also of speaking. Usually, people would always say, the mom especially, are very proud that the first word that the child would utter is "mom," mom,
Mama,
yeah,
mama.
mama. Yes, because of the physical condition of the physical structure of our mouth.
Oh, it's much easier to
Easier
say
to say
mama than
mama than
papa or
papa
daddy.
and others.
Oh, that
And
makes sense.
yeah, and gradually they would develop, because of the interaction, they would develop. They will acquire some vocabulary. Although they cannot write, they cannot read, but they can speak. Speaking is always comes ahead of writing and reading. And in fact, talking about reading now, reading is so unnatural. We cannot expect a child to just naturally would be able to read without any intervention. Like speaking, without intervention, just because just put the child in the family, in the society, the child would eventually be able to speak. That's natural. That's what developmentalism and romanticism are referring to. And these in education, we have term for this. That is they called primary skills, primary learning skills. And reading and in fact writing are not primary learning skills. They are term categorized as secondary learning skills. So what's the difference? The secondary learning skills, simply put, they cannot be acquired by anyone, even adults, even children above 6 years old, naturally. You just cannot let the child, you give a book to him and he starts reading. The child has to start with ABC and start to read the CBC, consonant, vowel, consonant for that matter. Gradually, they will be able to, they are trained, they are coached to read, and they would be able to read, and eventually they would be able to write. And writing is another, would come much later than reading, because writing is, basically reading is a passive learning. Writing
You're
is,
taking in, but when you're writing, you're creating.
you're creating.
You're creating.
Writing is more difficult.
Right.
I would always maintain in the school that I will say, before you let the child write, let him read at least 100 books. And he starts to write, cannot even write very well. And he has to read lots of books.
Yeah, I remember I was in college. I took a writing class, a nonfiction writing class, and my professor, Mamrika, who I'm still friends with today, one of her tips, she said, if you find yourself unable to write, that means you've not read enough. So that's what I do when I write, because I write as a hobby. When I'm unable to write, when I couldn't find the words, or I just, I can't find the words or find the topic, or, I'm not in the right position or disposition to write.
Yeah. And your question a while ago, I think is about when to start reading.
Yeah, because there are all these different schools of thought about when do we start with the more unnatural, as you mentioned,
Yeah.
unnatural skills.
Yeah, I witnessed some parents who were very proud, saying that their infant, the little child, was able to walk when the child was 7 months old. Usually, we would say that the child would start walking around 1 year old, more or less, or 1 year and 2 months. But there were children who could read, who could walk at 7 months, 8 months, and they were so proud, boasting that probably they would want to show that the child is smart in a
Mm.
way. So even the natural skills does not have a hard and a fixed date
Right.
when they will be acquired. Although still we cannot expect a child to run first before crawling. That's the given. So in reading, actually we made experiment before in our school before the advent of K to 12, where children are allowed to, actually the nursery when they reach 4 years old. That's what the rule of DepEd before. 4 years old nursery. You
Mhm.
can go to grade one. The child can go to grade one only when she reaches the age of 7. But I don't know when. I think that was more than 10 years ago. They changed the policy because of the K to 12. So if the child starts at 7 in grade one, he will graduate late because there's a 2-year addition in high school. So DepEd moved it 1 year, and it's again a mandatory age. 6 years old should be grade one.
Grade one.
So before that advent of K to 12, our nursery, 4 years old, could read. To the surprise of many parents, they could read. There was a designated 15 booklets. They could read, no? Of course, the first book is about the cat sat on the mat, and they can read, huh? They could read. They could read everything with comprehension because the facilitator would ask questions at the end, and children would be able to answer, and they're happy after that. They would color the booklet. So 4 years old, many would not believe. Even some of our facilitators in our school could hardly believe that our nursery could read at that age.
You mean facilitators who just new facilitators, or even the
Even
old?
though those were because that was the start of our school. That was the
Mm.
first few years of our school.
Oh, okay, I
We
see.
tried it, and it was a success. And actually, it's not a success because it's just normal. Any school can have that kind of scenario. It's not so special. So now, since we moved to grade to 3 years old nursery, we don't let the grade three the 3-year-old children read yet. They start to be introduced to some words, but not reading the 15 booklets. So in 4 year kinder one, now they start with that. So for us, we feel that um, 4-year-old children can start reading without any adverse effect on them psychologically. And that's what we are doing now, no? And I believe that probably in we are not that brave enough. Probably in the future we try to let the 3-year-old read, but we have to think of a way how to lead them to that. It's not just magic. We have a way of letting before the 4-year-old to read. It's now a normal thing in the school. But what is we are trying in probably the future, we try the 3-year-old to start reading.
I think the pushback on that would be maybe parents who have other perspectives would say, but they're so young. They're so young. Shouldn't kids be focused on play, on on using their hands, on socializing, on meeting, their classmates? What would you say to that kind of pushback? Or if I'm a parent telling you, or if I have a kid and you say something like, uh, we'll try to even lower the age where they can start reading. They're practically babies.
Yeah.
And why are we putting so much pressure on these?
Actually, reading for the children, like now the kinder one start reading those booklets. We don't feel that it's a pressure on their part.
Mm.
We still have all those things like play, all those that are necessary for the growth of the preschool children are in place. It's just that we add this reading is part of their growing up, is part of their experience in their growing up years. Reading is not the be all end all of the kinder, like it's 4-year-old children. It's only part of that. The point is that we can start as early as 4-year-old. We can opt for, we start for reading in grade one, but I feel it's very late. It's very late because in grade one, based on we have the Scholastic reading program. In grade one, in the States, our Scholastic reading program is designed in States, and the books are all English, of course. They have a standard for 6-year-old children reading, meaning they also recognize that by 6 years old they should reach this level. So if we start from that, in the States, English is their mother tongue. Here is a foreign language. So children, fortunately, in the school require them to speak English. At home, mostly, most children would start schooling in school. They would speak Hiligaynon, our native language. So it's only that when they enter our school that they start to learn, and they learn very fast. No, and if we start in grade 6 years old to read those books under the program, it would be very difficult for them to catch up.
Okay.
So we realized, I think we started with a program, I think some 14 years ago, the Scholastic program. We were happy at that time, then Isa was already, I think, more than 10 years, that by that time, our grade one, because of the start of the reading program, when they were in nursery at the start, but lately, of course, in kinder one, they were able to read books in grade one. No? Although the grade one at that time was not included in this program. We started with grade two. But after COVID, we started, during COVID, actually, we added the grade one. Now we are very happy of the progress of the children in grade one. They could read. I think they're required. Lately, I asked the head, they're required to read, I think, 160 books a year. Of course, based at their level. But at their level, that's the level that the United States is mandating the schools to reach the level. So those children whose mother tongue is English, compared to our children here in grade one, whose mother tongue, of course, is not English, it's foreign language, we are not a bit inferior to them in terms of reading.
Okay. This whole conversation of like the different ages, you mentioned earlier that there are different schools of thought. You mentioned naturalism, developmentalism.
There's constructivism.
This kind of conversation reminds me of another conversation I had years ago. This was already after the pandemic, so at the time I was already connected with the school, and one of my friends introduced me to his friend, who asked me about the school and what makes your school different, blah blah blah. And then I talked to him about our focus on academics, and he asked me, what if I have a child? Let's say I have a child, but that's not my priority. I have other priorities for my kid, and I don't want to make, like, my priority is not on academic. And so my answer to him, well, that means maybe our school is not for you. That means maybe if that's your priority, maybe you'd be happier, if your school went to another, if your kid went to another school. So I'm reminded of that conversation, because I feel like each school, it has its own approach to things, and each country has its own approach based on culture as well. And there are different schools, and there are also different schools of thought. So maybe earlier you mentioned romanticism and these. Would you be able to give us a little summary or an overview of the different schools of thought?
Yeah, these schools of thought, of course, is a broad topic.
Right, yeah.
But since take reading as our context, we would probably focus only on how they view the stages of learning of a child. I think that's very relevant to this.
Sure.
So when, like your friend said, well, that's not my priority.
Just,
Academics.
academics. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, well, when we talk about academics, basically we would be talking about reading, writing, arithmetic, the three R's. Yeah, adding the arithmetic. Math is more complicated than compared to reading, no? So basically, these great school of thought, like developmentalism, romanticism, constructivism, all those have one common uh, founding tenets in them, that is, they would always insist on the natural states of development of every child. You cannot force things on them that they're not ready. There's even one say that readiness is very important. Like they get one, they use like grass as an example. You cannot just pull the grass to let it grow faster. So that's the basic, which is very correct when it comes to the primary learning. I mentioned primary learning mostly are related to like fine motor, uh, yeah, like fine motor, language speaking. Yeah, those are the examples, good examples of primary learning. But there are learning that are considered as secondary, which is not natural. Base 10 mathematics is not natural. In fact, in the computer we have base 2, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. It's just imagine if our math would turn into 0, 1, 0, 1, we would have a hard time understanding. I have hard time understanding computing. Tell me to, I cannot do that because we are used to that base 10. And why? Because we learned that. So if we don't learn it, like just the simple one, 0, 1, the computer, that's what the how do you call
The
that?
language of
Oh
computers.
yeah, the
binary system.
You tell me to compute along that principle. I can hardly do that. So that's the same with base 10. If you don't teach children mathematics basic skills as early as possible, then they would have a hard time in the future. This is especially true to those who are uh, economically challenged children from the family, those who are poor. Good for those who are affluent, or not really those rich, but those who are in the middle class, because they have lots of books at home. Children, even if let's say the school won't start let the child read, parents would start let the children read at home. And there are many cases like that. They could read and they have the advantage. What about those who don't have those resources? They will be put in a disadvantaged position. So starting reading as early as in the preschool would somehow prevent the development of gap between those who can afford and those who are financially challenged family, the children. Reading skill, as if it started early, is a big equalizer in terms of like economic background. Those who are the poor, especially those who cannot afford buying books, if the school would start letting them read 4 years old in the daycare center, probably really serious with reading, there will be no problem. Even in public school, they're always saying that children cannot read, are not readers. Even when they reach grade 6, I could not imagine grade 6 children could not read. But that's a reality. If we are serious with reading, giving opportunity for these children coming from some family who are economically challenged, they start reading at 4 years old, and when they reach grade 1, they will be no different from those children in the private school. There will be no more problem with like grade 3 cannot read, which is so sad. This should not happen in the first place because we have lots of resources. The government has lots of funds. Just buy books, simple books, very thin books. In our school, we have those very thin books for the grade 1. And well, we are fortunate that we have this for Scholastic program. So this is one way of preventing children who become non-reader when they reach grade 3 or grade 6. And when they reach grade 1, they start, of course, the habit, it's also a habit forming, a practice. When they reach grade 1, they love reading, hopefully. And then mostly would love reading because it's so lots of nice stories in the book they can find in the book. So once that habit is formed, a classroom lesson would become secondary for them because what they learn outside of classroom when they go, they can apply right away. What I mean is English. I'm referring to English because that's a medium of instruction in our country.
You mentioned the love for reading. Is there a risk that by introducing something earlier, they would, because it's not natural to them.
So unnatural.
Yeah.
Sure.
Is there a risk that because we're introducing something so early, they would grow a form of, like, I wouldn't say hatred, but
yeah, they might
hate.
hate.
Yeah, they might hate reading because why are you forcing me to read? What do you think about that?
I remember when I was, I think, 3 years old at that time. Before I went to school, I think it started 4 years old. I entered the preschool. I don't know if Koanini or who bought a birthday gift for me. A book, color book, a children book. The title is Jack and the Beanstalk. I could not read, but I love this. That's the only book I could remember that I had. I really possessed from 3 years old to even grade 1. That's the only book. I kept on getting that book and look at the picture. Of course, I cannot read, just on the picture. So love it. What if, I was recalling, what if at that time I could read? I would probably not only stick to the book, I would look for other books. Because the story, I just look at pictures. It's so nice. There are words there that, of course, I cannot understand. And then just keep looking at the picture. That's the favorite book I had. The only one book I had. I could not read. Probably at that time, I was hoping that I could read. I would be able to know the story better. And we have lots of children's storybooks right now, published by lots of big and not so expensive. The national bookstore, you can buy. With those kind of books, normally I would believe that no child would hate looking at those books. And what if they can read the words? They know the story much deeper, of course, not only from the picture, but also some of the details there that cannot be reflected on the picture. They would read it. I'm sure they would love it. There was one parent who mentioned that she has 3 boys. The 2 boys, he did not have problem with reading because since small they love reading. Her problem was with the 3rd one. But when this boy reached grade 2 at the time, grade 2, because grade 1 there was no reading program yet, they are not included. Then we have this mandatory number of books that they have to read, and the child was forced to read. No choice, just to read. At first, it was forcing them. Of course, it's so unnatural. But after 2 years, the mom told me that 3rd child of hers loves it. So probably we'll say that that's one example. Probably that because that parent was so vocal, close to me, and then she was able to tell me that. I think other parents would also have that kind of experience with their children. That probably there will be. Well, in our school, some children are complaining that lots of books there, they got lots of things to do. But it's not the reading that they are against, that they are complaining. It's the work, because they have lots of projects, quizzes, long tests to prepare. And then here you are asked to read certain number of books in a week. So it's the load, the load that is maybe, but of course they complain, but actually they comply. And for us in the administration and for the facilitators, they think it's not really over. We are not overwhelming them with those requirements. And reading, of course, they are not complaining with the reading itself, but of the load.
The load.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I was younger, you also used to force me to read. I did not. I grew up. I did not like reading. Growing up, it did not come naturally. And like my brother, older brother, Kan, he was more into reading.
Yeah.
I was not. But then you forced me to read these books. And then eventually in school we had this thing where we each person had to buy one book, and then throughout the semester we would read it and then pass it on to the next person. Then we get the next book. So we'd cycle. So the 30 of us in the class, we'd cycle 30 books
Yes. Yes.
for the year. I remember that
Yeah.
was that was before the Scholastic reading
Yeah,
program
before.
came. So that was like a makeshift
Yeah.
Scholastic
That was
program.
before. I remember each one of you are required to buy one book. Scholastic
Yeah.
also from
Also a
Scholastic.
Scholastic book.
And then after 2 weeks, every 2 weeks you have to take
Right,
the book,
yeah,
and you have
to-
to write something. And the burden is on the part of, it's on the facilitators, because he has to read all the books.
Right, to
Otherwise, I would just know that you have read or not. But when Scholastic program, I cannot remember when was that, 14 years ago, or someone came in the office, and that's a God-given gift. That's really a gift. When they were introducing halfway. When they were introducing, I said, "No need to continue your introduction. We'll get the program. We'll get the program." But they said, "Don't worry." I don't know when was that. After 1 month or two, you go to one school. We will demo it there. The program, the whole program. And I brought some of the facilitators there. They were so happy on the program. No one was against of it. Of course, the program, well, that's another topic. Anyway, you can just go to the internet and check the program right away. Then next year, after that, after we adopted the program until now, and then we are happy to tell you that we are consistent at the top for 7 years.
Right.
The competition started 7 years ago.
What would your advice be to a parent or to a kid to encourage them to read or to avoid them hating reading?
Yeah. I think since the program, with the aid of the Scholastic program, they are they are asked to take tests, to test their level, reading comprehension level at the start of the school year. Even before the start of the school year, they took the test and they got their score. They call it Lexile score.
Which is their level,
Their level.
reading level.
Yes. And this is consistent with the principle of romanticism, developmentalism, because or readiness, the principle of readiness. So the child got the number, the Lexile level, and she would go to the library and look for books that are at par of his or her level. So all these books, in terms of difficulty, is within his capability. So he could choose. He just had to choose which titles he likes. But when they open it, they would be able to understand it. Now the books, the vocabulary, the sentence structure are all within his or her
Reading
capability.
level. Right.
Yeah. So there's no danger with this program. There's no more danger of children hating books by reason of not understanding the book. We remove that factor. So hating it probably because she wants to watch TV, but there are 3 books that is waiting there for her to finish before he can take the quiz. Without finishing, he cannot take the quiz. So probably that's against now of the priority now. TV, watching TV, or reading. So we need the help of the parents to let the children understand. I will talk to the parents. Ask the parents to help us in letting the children understand. So after reading these books, taking the test, and you go to other activities.
What about for those who don't have access to the reading program? What do you think would be a good
Those
other parents? Yeah.
That's a bit difficult because if there are lots of good books in the bookstores, but the parent has to go over, has to read the contents, and has to measure the difficulty of the books against the level of the child. And chances are parents do not even know what's the level of the comprehension of the child.
Is there a way to take the test for free online?
Oh, I'm not so sure if it's they can access online taking the test, gauging their Alexa level. I'm not so sure.
Maybe there's a. I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, maybe.
But if there is one, maybe you can Google that later.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you can Google the Lexile level of books.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's that's exclusive to Scholastic books. I don't think so.
No, there are books now, which has at the back
The
Lexile
Lexile
level.
Mm.
Not all books. There are some books, but in our library, all books have labels.
Right.
Either they're printed on the book itself or we label them. I mean, not we are the one label. The Scholastic, in Manila, they would put label that this is Alexa. Because all the books, practically almost all the English books, you can check the Alexa level on the internet.
Right.
Yeah, that's one convenient. Even without the Alexa
Without the
level,
test,
there,
yeah, you
you can check it right away. You can see the Alexa level. There's still a way of letting the children who are not enrolled in this program read the books books based on their Alexa level.
So if I'm understanding correctly, what you're saying is, I guess the best way to get kids into books is to first find the right books for them, the books that are of their level.
Yeah, that's critical. It's not yet the content. We aren't talking about the content. The content would come after. Before that, the books we have to make sure so that the child will not feel frustrated. It's so disappointing if the child finds the book and reads the book and cannot understand 90%, 60% of the vocabulary there. So painful on the part. Probably that's the time they will hate books.
Right.
They won't go back to the books anymore. Because that's just not for me. That's why when we pick, especially for the beginners, we have to be very careful in choosing what books for them. If you have this Scholastic program, because it helps us. Honestly, if in your time I could hardly find books, I could not determine which books is good for you when you were in the preschool. I practically did not buy books for you. It's only in grade 1, I think, at the time or even grade 3. I think we started with grade 3 or grade 4.
Yes.
Not in grade 1, grade 2, grade. That's each one has to buy a book, and that was at that time actually we were just relying on the introduction of the publisher that this book is good for grade 3. But books, the reading level, the comprehension level of the children in one grade level is just like wearing shoes. It's not uniform. When you go to buy shoes, you don't say I'm 15 years old. Then the sales lady will give you shoes for 15 years old. They will ask, what's your size? Regardless of your age, right? Reading comprehension is like that. So in grade 3, for example, grade 3 or grade 4, whatever grade level, the their reading comprehension are not uniform. You cannot say, all of you are grade 7. You have this reading comprehension. Common sense would tell us that's not that's not the way it is. And Lexile, after taking the test, the different Lexile level they have would prove that they have different level of comprehension. And now that each one has this level, then he looks for a book that is suitable to this level, that would match the level, Lexile level, or big comprehension level. The rest doesn't mind others, just mind your own business. And
Right,
then
mind
read
your
for
own
books.
level.
Yeah, then after a year, there will be another test, and you could see the progress there from, let's say, 600 Lexile level going to 750, or even 650 or 50 points higher. It's already a success for that year. And just imagine how many years from grade 1 going to grade 10. Well, that's what I think, what makes me love the program. You could see in the children the progress, and we have some evaluation, uh, like the APSA. You could see the progress. Those in the grade 10, practically no one is moving towards standard.
What are the different APSA levels? Can you
Pardon.
explain what the APSA is and what are the different?
APSA actually is the name of the corporation, of the company, the Asian Psychological Assessment and Services. Every year, you took that no before. Every year, our children from kinder to were evaluated on 3 areas: English, math, science. And talking about reading in English, which is very much related. The test items are very much related to reading. The score, the outcome of the test of the grade 10 relative to those in the lower grades, much higher. The highly proficient, the rate, the percentage is much higher. Practically, there's no more, absolutely no more not met standard. Moving towards standard, probably 1 or 2, but in some years, none. All are proficient and highly proficient. You could see the progress. But on the lower grades, you still can see not met standard children. But as they go higher, the percentage of moving towards standard, not met standard, practically goes down, and no one is remains in that level of what not met standard. Yeah, that's why in ISA we always say that English is our. Some would say that math is our. We are very good in math, no? Yeah, well, probably, but really we are very good in English compared to English. Comparatively, English is our flagship. Science, we are progressing, probably because also of English, of their comprehension. Compared to your time, we have made a great progress, especially in science. Math is an area that we need to do more. Although we see some, especially in the elementary, we maintain a very satisfactory level in math. But in the high school, that's still a problem.
Okay. Just to maybe end this conversation for now, what do you think about the future of reading or of academics with, now we have AI. There are certain schools who have used AI. Not yet in the Philippines, but in the US, there are already some schools starting to use it as a method of instruction. What do you think about that future?
Yeah, we are so far. I'm not really very familiar with AI, but as to the sum of my what I know about little knowledge about AI, I would believe that AI would help a lot in developing the reading comprehension of the children. In what way? Probably, like, for example, actually I tried this. No, I tried type. Please write a story uh, at the level of grade 2 children. Write a story within not longer than 500 words, and it should be lively. was suited to grade 2 children. And it came out a story really for grade 2 children. And the vocabulary is really for grade 2. Practically, you don't have to buy books. And complete with pictures, free. So that, and that's even better than Lexile, than determining the Lexile level. Oh, but let's say that you know the Lexile level of the child, and the parents knows, oh, give me Lexile level of this within this range. Wow! Every day you can have stories for the child. You don't have to buy books with pictures. That can be done now. I tried it.
And I
Yeah.
guess we're talking about reading now, but I think you can also apply this to to math problems, to science. We don't know where AI will take us, but I think it's a tool, and if we use it the right way, I think it can only help, at least for education. I think it can only help if managed the right way, and if learners are taught how to handle, how to use it responsibly and effectively. Yeah, I think that's a good place to end this conversation.
Yeah. Thank you for arranging this conversation.
We'll do more in the future. Talk about some more different topics on education, but I think this is a good place to end.
Okay.